Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 30 of the 40k Badcast. My name is Dan Boyd, and I am joined, as always, by star of the hit TV show, Twin Peaks, Kyle MacLachlan. Kyle, what's going on?
I'm so glad that I, Kyle MacLachlan, star of Stage and Screen, could join you for the 40k Badcast's Dirty Flirty 30.
Dirty Flirty 30, that's right. We've made it to 30, and you know what that means. I was hoping you knew what that means so you could tell me. When I turned 30, I invited people to my 30th birthday party by saying Dan Boyd has become Man Boyd.
That wasn't on your 13th birthday?
That wasn't, no. It took me a little longer. Anyways, welcome to our show about Warhammer 40,000, where we talk about dumb shit in front of an audience of literally dozens. Campbell, how you feeling?
There's basically an episode for each listener of our show at this point. This one's just for you, Daryl. You know who you are.
Yeah, fucking Daryl. All right, let's get into the aspects here. I finished something recently. You know, okay, so it's kind of dumb. In the DC area, we've had like a solid week of rain, and it doesn't look like it's going to let up until June. And
nice.
I'm not joking. So there's been a lot of inside time spent lately, and I finished Contemptor, the resin Forge World Contemptor that I bought at Adepticon, and I haven't had a chance to get out there and dull coat it yet because of the humidity, but it's done and it looks fantastic. I'm really, really impressed with the model, or I was really, really impressed with the model, and I'm really happy with the paint job, and hopefully I'll get to spray it so I can post pictures on it on Twitter and y'all can see it. Yeah,
the pictures you sent me earlier looked sweet. Did you post them on Twitter yet?
No. I'm gonna wait until I get it all dull coated, because right now you can still see the shine from the transfers where I went over with the gloss varnish. And you know how the dull coat like sort of brings everything together? Yeah, it's lacking that at the moment. So right now I just have it in the case. A KR order came in. I got a new card case so I could put my Repulsor and my Contemptor and my Redemptor when I get one in it. So
nice.
That's a good time. But yeah, the humidity out here, man, I can't spray. It's brutal.
I'm on the East Coast too, so it's been pretty humid here as well, though right now it's pretty pleasant outside. So I was able to get some priming in.
Oh, cool. Tell me.
So I primed 10 Stern Guard veterans. Woohoo, exciting, I know. I built, primed, and started...
All right, 2007, here we come.
Please, 2008 in the plastic kit.
Oh, okay.
I built and started painting the 5 Tartaros Terminators I got in the swag bag at Nova.
Yes.
And I used the Pop Goes the Monkey 3D printed shoulder pads on them. And honestly, the striations, the lines, the typical 3D printed shit on them, it's a bit noticeable on some parts at some angles, but it isn't that bad. Like, I very shamefully used a thick glop of black paint on the shoulder pads to try to cover it up as best I could. And, it isn't too shabby. I do kind of wish I did some of like the acetone vapor thing and, dissolve those things on them, but they came out looking pretty okay.
Okay.
I got my Forge World order of Necromunda Weirdos with Grundle Scrunterson et al. And the casts are uniformly flawless. Like, there's not even mold lines in some of them. They're frankly incredible. I think it might just be because they're new models, but the typical Forge World cleanup shit doesn't look like it's going to be an issue here.
Awesome, man.
I bought a set of the Minotaur Armored containers and some paint, and I actually did paint one whole model, which is Dietrich Donnerschlag, my Teeth of Terra chainsword captain, and I'm impressed with myself because I was able to fit Donnerschlag on one shoulder pad.
Dongerschlagen?
Dongerschlagen, that's my favorite beer.
Is he schlagging on dongs?
He's not schlagging on dongs. He is the Don who schlongs.
Is he slogging through dongs with his terrible chainsword? Not terrible as in bad, but terrible as in terrifying. Has terror.
No, he's going to be slogging an awful lot, I can tell you that.
Dong slogger.
I mean, I have
that's good.
Never mind. I have a Dunkellager in my fridge, but I don't have a Dong Schlager.
I also primed and base coated, put the first base coats on the 30th anniversary veteran Primaris Sergeant that I got at Adepticon. I think Adepticon, yeah.
I think I'll pick him up. I've been thinking about picking that model up. Well, here's the thing: is like I think it's a cool model, but I'm like, this guy's going to be in a swag bag somewhere I go, and I'm not going to need to.
I guarantee you that within 1 year, if you just don't do anything except go to Nova and go to Adepticon, you'll get at least one, maybe more.
Yeah, it'll just find its way into my collection. Like everybody has at least one plastic commissar somewhere.
Yeah, he's a cool model. It's just a Primaris Sergeant, it's not the craziest thing, but he does come with a power sword.
That's nice.
He's got it sheathed on his butt, so you can give a sergeant in a Primaris Intercessor squad a power sword, and they don't have a model for that except this model. So hey, friendos, listeners out there, go to cons and get a free one.
Butt swords and Schlong dongers. Let's move on to what came out of Warhammer Fest, because that just happened.
The fucking episode title. Go right there. All right, before we move on to that, I do have some more painting and modeling I'd like to talk about.
Oh.
Well, a couple of things. One, I did do some terrain construction at the Nova Terrain Day last weekend. And just so listeners know, for context, we are recording this on Friday the 18th. Yeah, 18th of May. So when we talk about dates, they know. Though we're about to contextualize it with time a little more. But yeah, so I went down to the Terrain Day for Nova in Lorton at the storage unit, and I had a lot of fun. This was fun for me, using a heat gun to warp foam to make it look less like foam and make it more look like rocks and natural stuff.
That's kind of cool.
I had to wear a mask, though, because the fumes were quite pungent.
Yeah, that's why you shouldn't spray paint like straight up styrofoam, because the fumes it puts off are not good.
Right. So that was a lot of fun, and I want to urge people in the DC area that are coming to Nova Open in August and September to look up the Nova terrain builds and come on down. I go to every single one of them. They're a lot of fun. They're a great way to meet people in the hobby. You get free lunch and breakfast. And there's like beers in the fridge in there too if you're 21 years or older. And it's a good time. I mean, it's just hang out with some nerds, talk about the game, build some terrain. If you haven't built terrain before, it's actually a very good way to get experience building terrain for if you down the road have an opportunity to build out a gaming area in your house like you, Campbell, get to do, then you will have experience in building and painting terrain, and it can be a lot of fun. So
that's
come on down.
That's super cool, and it's a nice way to give back to the whole convention.
So notice, though, it's May, and we're building terrain for Nova, an event in August and September. There is a large event happening right now in London, England, the London Grand Tournament, where they decided that they were going to build all their terrain like 10 days in advance for
and it's
fucking
like
220 tables.
Yeah, 440 people. Not counting. Ooh, that's not counting Heresy players, isn't it?
No, I don't know if the Heresy are going to have their own terrain. I would imagine that Heresy players in England are just like Heresy players in the States, where they're going to bring their own fucking badass terrain, because Heresy players are weirdly way more into the hobby than anybody else.
It's historical war games in the future. It's just you get that sort of railroad construction style DIY nature. Well,
reports are that people are playing on tables of unpainted foam at an event that you had to pay to get into, which is leaving some people a little bit unhappy about it. So if you don't want that to happen, and it won't happen because we've been working on it for a while at Nova, but I'm serious. Come on down. Come on down. It's a good time. Sorry.
Come on down to Big Bill Hell's Terrain Workshop.
Fuck you, Baltimore. No, but seriously, if you live in Baltimore, it's like an hour south on 95. Just come on down. It's a good time.
Sweet.
So Warhammer Fest happened.
Yeah.
And not a whole lot of 40k stuff came out of Warhammer. Only one thing of Warhammer Fest, I should say. Only one thing. The render of a new plastic Sister of Battle.
And it looks fucking beautiful. It is really cool that the technology for making models has finally caught up with the old art, because I don't remember who did that particular piece of artwork. They did tons of art in the 2000s and late 90s, and I love the look of it. And she does look very detailed, and like it might be a pain in the butt to paint a lot of them, but looks good. Yeah, no, that clearly it looks like some sort of character model, not a battle line, battle sister, battle. It's
battle. Really cool, really great detail, the very gothic kind of armor that they wear, and most importantly, no battle high heels.
Yeah, she's wearing sensible shoes in the future. It's amazing.
Wow. Who would have thought that GW would have gotten that memo out of all the memos that I've been sending them lately? So that was really it for 40K, but there's a bunch of specialist game announcements, including a whole new game that we're going to get to. But first, I want to talk about Necromunda. So, Campbell, why don't you walk us through what we saw there?
They didn't show a whole ton. Actually, sorry, scratch that. They did show a whole ton. There was a little preview for Caudor, which is just a piece of artwork that looked good. Like, it had the flavor of the old guys, but with a lot more like kind of creepy decrepitness to them.
I should have waited. I should have fucking waited. You know, I thought about it. Those Orlocks came out, and I was like, fuck yeah. Fucking biker miners, whatever. But religious
biker miners
zealots,
from Mars?
sanitation workers?
Yeah.
Come on. That's me.
I know that's you down in the sump.
Yeah, the sump of fucking Virginia in spring.
That's what it is.
The wet fucking grundle of America.
Hope you like mosquitoes.
Well, yeah. Well, right now the rain is like knocking them all out of the air, but in a week or two, when the rain potentially stops, then the mosquitoes, they will come and they will rule. They will rule the Mid-Atlantic region.
They'll come
iron
proboscis.
Yeah, thank you. Caudor, the Caudor model, like, okay, no models. We didn't see any models. We saw one picture of this like grody looking dude with a mechanical foot, and then some text about them being sanitation workers. And bro, I am like fucking turned, like ready.
Your gang's just gonna be the janitorial union.
I love the Hulkamaniacs, and I put a ton of work into them. But if these Caudor models are up to the quality of the other Necromunda models so far, and I have no reason to believe that there won't be, I might switch, or I might grab Caudor guys instead.
I mean, that's the cool thing about Necromunda. You only need 10 guys.
Yeah. They did Orlok weapon packs. They showed
and
those.
Vansar weapons.
And Vansar weapons, which I was excited at least see. And I'm glad that they're only doing 2 Orlok weapon packs, which means I only have to buy 20 more Orlok dudes.
I only need a platoon of these guys.
Weapon.
Yeah. But they showed those off. They showed Necromunda pets, which I'm all about.
Yes. The Sump Croc.
I'm getting the Sump Croc.
Yes.
I gotta have my little mask. I'm gonna get him. I'm gonna get the kitties, because even if I don't actually, I'll get around to my Ushers eventually, but I want them kitties.
Who doesn't? They look cool too. They look very, very feral.
Yeah, they look vicious. I think I'll paint. I mean, there's 2 of them, so I'll paint them up as each of my cats. It'll be fine.
Oh, there you go.
And there's also more bounty hunters on the way, which I'm very into.
Yeah, well, one of the greatest things about Necromunda is you can get the special characters and use them, during your campaign. And we'll talk about that in a little bit when we talk about the NecroSlam Spa weekend wrap up. But I'm very excited for what's coming out for Necromunda. And hopefully next year we get to do another NecroSlam Spa weekend, and maybe my Hulkamaniacs will fare a little better this time, as we'll talk about later.
Maybe they'll run a little more wild.
Yeah, hopefully.
They did show a bunch more Warhammer Fest. There was a lot of Age of Sigmar stuff, which we'll gloss over, but the new Night Haunt stuff looks super cool.
Yeah, they're doing a whole new edition of Age of Sigmar in June.
Yeah,
which is going to make it slow news for us in the 40K community, because they're focusing on Sigmar, which is cool. Like they got a whole new faction, they're getting a whole new edition. Like, well, maybe not a whole new edition, but they're updating the edition, bringing some things in from 40K to Age of Sigmar, which is cool. But the one thing that I did like from the announcement on YouTube is like at the very end, Pete Floyd was like, "Oh, you can't shoot out of combat anymore," and people were, you could hear just the nerds chanting and screaming with rapture and joy at that, which is kind of fun.
No, I'm glad GW isn't totally playing favorite child with Sigmar 40K, but GW is starting its own podcast called the Stormcast, which, first of all, pretty good pun. Second of all, they're obviously doing it to compete with us.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah, the Stormcast. Well, I mean, they have a larger baked-in listener base than
you don't say.
Which, good luck. I hope they. I mean, I don't know what their equipment like situation is over there. I don't know if they have a good studio for it. I don't know if it's going to sound as good as ours does. So, we'll see. I'll listen to it. I think it's going to be an AOS themed podcast.
Yeah.
I'll listen to it, give it a shot, and I will be very, very critical, as I am of every podcast.
Solid, except for this one.
Oh, dude, you have no idea how much editing I do for this stupid fucking podcast.
I'm so sorry.
How much of my time is spent listening to my stupid voice and your mellifluous tones.
Ooh, good vocabulary word. That's
trying
like
to
eighth grade
turn me
vocabulary
from
word.
A stupid fucking... What's the character from Mice and Men? Lenny? I sound like Lenny. George.
And I just sound like Lenny from The Simpsons.
George. Sorry. I hate myself. Sorry.
That's okay.
It's Friday, listeners. It's Friday, and I don't go...
It is Fuck It Friday. So Forge World showed off some stuff, such as Imperial Armor, Talons of the Emperor, because that's what we needed is more Custodes. Finally! More Golden Boys.
Yeah, great.
They also showed off Horus Heresy Book 8, that's cool. That's finally coming out. I like the Suicide Sled Land Speeder and the, Alpha Legion dudes and Dark Mech characters, and Janisha Kroll is pretty cool, even if I don't love her face. But that's kind of small news compared to the bigger news of Adeptus Titanicus.
Yes.
Which we've seen coming. It had been teased in White Dwarf like 6 months ago, and then they decided to go back and work on it again.
Which is fine.
Yeah, totally into it. Which is a reboot of the old Adeptus Titanicus. It's not a straight up epic reboot. It is, think of it as Battletech with actually good models.
Oh my God.
And
the Battletech video game came out recently.
I heard it's amazing.
I've been playing the fuck out of it. A turn-based strategy Battletech game with fucking mechs. It's tight. It's rad.
Dude, that was one of my first war games, like the old tabletop Battletech. I'm very down for that. But
I saw the models for these mini Titans because they're just scaled down versions of Knights and Titans and all that shit. And holy fucking shit, dude.
They're gorgeous.
I do not have time to play Adeptus Titanicus. I just don't have fucking time to do it. But god damn it, I saw that little warlord and I was like, fuck! I want it.
Yeah.
Looks cool.
No, I'm gonna buy into it. I don't know how hard I'll go into it. Like I'll probably hold back before getting the resin boards and spending $800 to play on a small city. But I'm very into it. The models are gorgeous. The rules, from what I was reading from people's responses, from people's like comments about it, looked pretty cool. You've got kind of like a little control panel for each of your big Titans, and then the Knights kind of work as their own individual thing. And some people are upset that the scale is different than Epic. But that game came out during like the Clinton years. Like that's old. That's old as shit. That's 20-something years old, and you can buy some new toys.
So I was looking at the specialist games thread in somethingawful.com forums, and at one point, like I saw like 200 new posts. I was like, oh fuck yeah. People are yucking it up, having a good time, talking about Necromunda games and Bubble games and all that shit. And no, it was just idiots arguing about the scale of Adeptus Titanicus as compared to the scale of Epic from the 90s.
Yeah, where the scale wasn't even consistent from model to model, and you'd have like infantry models as tall as dreadnoughts and shit. Like, I have love for that era. I really do. I've collected so much old Hammer shit, but it's 2040k teen, get with the times.
No, and like people were getting so fucking mad at one another because like the Warlord Titan released in 2018 is 75% bigger than the Warlord Titan released in fucking 1997.
1991, I think.
Whatever.
It's real old.
You know what I'm saying. Like it's just the stupidest fucking argument.
Yeah, I'm imagining that GW just doesn't want people to reuse their old Epic Titans or the third-party resin company Titans that are floating out there and preemptively kill the game, because the Specialist Game Studio, from everything I've heard, is operating on a pretty tight margin where if like one game fails, the whole experiment's over. Well, I don't know how true that is. But.
Or they're just like, you know what? It's been almost 30 years since we put out these models. Let's make some new fucking models that look better, have way more detail, and are of a unified scale for everybody to play with.
This isn't just Epic. This is like Primaris Epic.
I guess so. But yeah, the pictures look great. The game seems really cool. and I can't wait to give it a shot. Hey, maybe we'll get to demo it at Nova.
I hope so. And also, again, this is a game where it's like, it's like BattleTech. You have a lance, or it's a man pile in this game, I guess.
Maniple. Why do they keep using that word?
It's so funny. Maybe it's so funny. Do they not know how funny man pile is? Because a man pile is also like the Space Marine tactical formation where they all stand on top of each other. That's been in the artwork since Rogue Trader. They're keeping it all in house. But it's a game where like your whole thing is going to be like a Titan and a couple knights. Like I'm going to have as many models as I have for like a Necromunda gang. They're just going to be a bit bigger. Yeah. I'm pretty okay with that. Like I don't need to buy in on the resin boards, but. Oh, and cool.
I think there's definitely a big market for that kind of more granular robot on robot action game.
Always has been. Yeah.
I think people can really, especially with fucking good models for once.
Yeah, which these ones are.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that one. Oh, they talked about a bunch of Blood Bowl shit too at Warhammer Fest. New troll for Goblin teams, which means that I'm 100% gonna have a Goblin team ready for next Adepticon.
Nice.
And some new elf special characters, which I'm going to get just because I collect all the special characters and I star players or whatever, and I enjoy taking a break from painting goth marines every now and then to paint like a buff dwarf guy.
Gotta catch them all.
So is that it for new stuff, or should we move on?
There was one more thing that actually leaked like 2 days before.
Ooh, tell me
and
more.
that is Rogue Trader.
Yeah, so these models are pretty darn cool. Look very, very... Honestly, the Chaos models, there's some real big dudes.
Yeah.
So there's Chaos and Rogue Trader models with not a whole lot of explanation as to what they're for. And the Rogue Trader models look so dang cool.
Yeah. There's so much character and there's so many like weird individual dudes. It feels to me that between all like the weird one-off figures in that box and all like the one-off figures you're getting for specialist games and all this other stuff, it feels kind of almost like return to form of like 80s GW, where it was just, we just made 35 individual random weirdos, do with them what you will. It feels kind of like that. Like people are the designers are getting to have fun, just make what they want, because Rogue Traders have been talked about in the fluff for literally forever, and there has not been a model since, Rogue Trader.
Right.
But one thing is, the trailer was up and it was like the video was up and it was taken down almost immediately. And the reasoning why was because it was spelled Rouge Trader in the title. And it is important to understand that a Rogue Trader is a space privateer and a Rouge Trader works at Sephora. One takes point, one makes sure your eyebrows are on point. Very different, both valid.
Oh, man.
And I would like to follow up all the fun times about Warhammer Fest and so on with one sad note, which is the decimation of Forge World's Horus Heresy line. It is so sad seeing all this stuff just be last chance to buy, all those cool upgrade kits, all those weapon kits, all those torsos, all this stuff, just gone. And it might come back in like a made-to-order capacity from what I've heard scuttlebutt-wise, but it sucks that the catalog is just getting slashed and burned the way it is.
Do we know why?
I think it's just there are things that aren't selling a lot, and I don't know how much of that is down to Horus Heresy slowing down because it's still in 7th edition, or people buying Betrayal at Calth and Prospero Burns instead of the actual resin models or whatever. I don't wholly know, but I'm still bummed because those are really fun, characterful bits like the Night Lord's heads and, the Ultramarines torsos or what have you.
Yeah, I remember when, right when I finished my Raven Guard the first go around in like 2009, they started coming out with all those upgrade kits that actually pissed me off because I just finished a bunch of fucking Raven Guard and I was like, now this upgrade? Fuck. But I don't know, man. Like, I was looking at some of the pictures when they're doing the last chance to buy on that stuff, and I just can't get over the scale difference of regular Marines versus Primaris Marines.
I gotcha.
The Primaris Marines look so much better.
They look really nice. And granted, some of those bits could be used with the Primaris guys, like the shoulder pads and the heads, obviously.
Oh, sure, yeah.
But yeah, it's a shame.
All right, so we're going to move on. So we've decided...
did you play any games?
Oh, no.
Same.
I'm playing tomorrow. I have a game tomorrow, but the last couple of weeks have been light on the gaming.
Yep.
Well, we played some games.
We did.
Not 40K, though.
No.
We're going to talk. We have a whole segment of the show devoted to games and what we've done. So shut the fuck up, listeners. Chill out. We have a new segment. It's called We Make the Call. It's not a new segment, but we're bringing it back as a regular feature now because we had a lot of fun doing it last time. And so instead of Campbell doing research and asking me questions, I did the research and I'm going to ask him questions. So Campbell, are you ready to make the call?
My body is ready.
Okay. This is from Yahoo Answers, and I did not write down the username of the person who asked it. So sorry. But here's the question.
Okay.
Is Warhammer for nerds?
Yeah!
Is Warhammer 40,000 nerdy? Because my friend got it, and it looks kind of well nerdy. So is it?
Kind of well nerdy?
That's what it says.
Oh, God. No. All right. Like, Warhammer 40K is like... it's like the enriched plutonium of nerd. Like this is weapons grade nerd. Because you can have like a Captain America shirt and be like, yeah, I'm just a guy. I like Captain America. I saw the movie, whatever. Or a Batman shirt and be like, yeah, I watched the cartoon when I was a kid, or Star Wars shirt or whatever. Both Warhammer, like this is whole hog. You can't go. It's hard to go less than like. It's part of the phrasing balls deep in nerd by playing Warhammer 40,000. Like this is. Ooh,
Who's nerdier? Yeah. Who's nerdier? RPG, like role-playing game kids, or Warhammer kids? And when I say kids, I mean like me and you, like people.
Yeah. Man, children. And woman children, please.
Children, too. Hashtag feminism.
The whole spectrum of children. I think the Warhammer nerds have dungeon masters. Like the ones who design their own campaigns and their own narratives and their own worlds and shit like that. Those are probably the very top of the tip, or the very top of the nerd pyramid here. Mm-hmm. Then Warhammer players, then regular D&D players.
Okay,
I'd say that's probably the hierarchy.
Okay, so what about like trading card game or collectible card game players, like Magic players?
I'm sorry.
You know what? This is a segment for a show later. Maybe we do the definitive nerd rankings in a later show. Listeners, we'll do that.
Tap the card on this question.
Yeah, we're gonna rain check it. I do want to read the best answer that I found to this question on Yahoo Answers, because you can just fucking like smell the smugness coming out of this answer. It's beautiful. All right, here's the best answer. Here we go. It involves a great deal of mental and some physical effort directed towards a purpose with no practical value whatsoever. If you don't want to play it because you're afraid it will make you a geek, then get over yourself. Life's too short, and in any case, chicks dig geeks. And Will Smith and Robin Williams both play Warhammer 40,000. If you're planning on making fun of your friend because he's a geek for buying Warhammer 40,000, then grow up.
To be fair, you need to have an extremely high IQ to understand the rules to Warhammer 40,000.
I thought you'd like that.
That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing, Dan.
Okay, so let's talk about the NecroSlam Spa weekend. Just about 2 weeks ago, you and I went to beautiful Wanacue, New Jersey, to our friend Peter's condo / townhouse, whatever, to play Necromunda for a whole weekend with a gaggle of our friends. And Campbell, it fucking ruled. We didn't take a shower the whole fucking time.
No, never do. So on the third day, I was kind of like, do you want to go to the lake and jump in? It's like 50 degrees. Okay.
When I got home, my girlfriend wouldn't come near me. She came in for a hug and was like, oh no. Failed. She pulled the ripcord.
I at least brought deodorant. Like, I'm not a total fucking slob.
I did too, but I didn't fucking put any on. No, I think I did put some on like before I got in the car for the 5-hour drive home.
Yeah, no, dabbing stale beer on your wrists and on your neck does not count as cologne.
Oh, and we drank a lot of beer. Anyways, so we're going to recap that real quick. I want to talk quickly about like our general thoughts about how the Necromunda thing went, and then we can get into our games a little bit and talk about how our gangs actually did. But my first takeaway from this is Necromunda is both cool and good.
It is cool and good in that order.
Yeah. I had the rule set is fucking granular as shit. I was checking rulebooks every 10 minutes and I loved fucking every moment of it, man. It was a great time. Like that kind of crunchy gaming. Mm-hmm. You know, it's not for everybody. You know, because Necromunda is supposed to be granular. Necromunda is 10 people versus 10 people and there's like, you know, personal traits and everything going on for everybody on the board. So it's like,
Bookkeeping.
Thank you. Yeah, there's a lot of bookkeeping involved. And not everybody's into that, but man, it was fun.
It works for a small scale game. Like I do not want to do 20 versus 20 gang fights because but
take forever.
At like the scale we were playing, which is about up to 10 guys per gang, it was a load of fun.
Yeah. And the people we played with were really, really cool too. That group from up there is really good. And I got to meet Dylan, who was on one of our episodes, episode 23, right? When we talked about Necromunda as a concept, as a thing. He drove you down, and I got to meet him, and he's a really cool guy.
Yeah,
I already knew he was a really cool guy, but
he brought some gorgeous terrain.
Incredible terrain with some really cool painting effects that he did with oil paints, which I was very excited to learn about that from him. And just great time all around. I would do it again in a heartbeat.
Same. Absolutely same.
My girlfriend was pissed that I went.
Oh, yeah.
She was, because, I had gone to, I had a work trip before Adepticon and then Adepticon and then like a month later this. Like I was kind of running low on the relationship capital, but I don't care. I'll do it again.
Dude, that's why I spent the last like week or two before that mounting shelves and building furniture and painting furniture and just doing everything I could just make my time out as painless as possible and make sure there was no breeding resentment and no problems in this side of the fence.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. So before we get into games and how everything worked out for us, something funny happened. So Necromunda weekend happens, and that weekend the blank gang cards come out, which I bought after the Necroslam Spa weekend, and I am fully convinced that those are necessary for play.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because it's super helpful to have all your like gang cards out on the table, either next to your playing area or in front of your playing area or something, so you can reference all that shit quickly instead of rolling through a sheaf of papers or rule books or something. And I ordered a bunch of counters from a UK company, which is probably just some guy, cutting acrylic with his own 3D printer or something in his house. And it fucking arrived the day after I got back.
Just in time.
But the counters are really cool. So next time I play, I'll have all that shit ready.
Nice. Yeah, Dylan printed out all these reference cards for us to use, which had, like, the front was the blank gangs card, and on the back it was caution striped with a house logo on it for either Goliath or Vansar on his part, and those were super helpful.
Yeah, Dylan kind of goes all out.
He goes ham on Warhams, yeah.
It's pretty impressive. So, Campbell, we played a couple of games during our thing. So we did a warm-up game on Friday night at the Necroslam Spa weekend, which was really just like kind of get familiar with the rules, go through the rulebook once. But I had been drinking a lot, you had been drinking a lot, and Peter, our partner, had also been drinking a lot. And it kind of just, we didn't finish the game at all. We got like maybe halfway through before we were just socializing.
Well, it was also like 4 a.m. at that point.
It was very late/early.
Which is right around the time Ryan put a pot pie in the oven.
That's right. Oh, we had those for breakfast the next day. It was great. It was lovely. Cold pot pie in the morning.
Yeah, so that game was a three-way battle with you, me, and Peter. Basically, you were up on the gantries, he was out in the open, and I was hiding, and you just shot the shit out of his gang while I just closed in to beat everyone up. And you're like, yeah, it looks like you're going to beat our guys up. We'll call it. And it was not a campaign-related game. It was just a one-off. Because the big thing is, every other game was part of an ongoing campaign throughout the weekend.
Mm-hmm. That was run by Julian, who was I think, a very good arbitrator.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
he had his whole big binder with all the rules. It's, all the rules, all the missions, all the errata, all the FAQ, like every piece of documentation that exists for this silly game was in his binder. Yeah. And he was around with that pretty much the entire time.
I think he could have been a little more assertive on keeping people on time. But
yeah.
He wasn't. I also don't think it was clearly a casual group of friends hanging out and not like a tournament.
So
but there was a couple of games that went like 3 times as long as other games, like in the same round. And that's kind of like, come on, guys.
Well, it's Dylan hadn't, I told him about, going to the Ham Slam Spa weekend type things at Peter's Cabin and stuff like that. And I don't think I communicated to him that this is kind of half gaming event, half house party that runs for 3 days, as opposed to just some guys getting together to play Warhammer.
Yeah, it's a little more social than some people are used to. So how'd your first game go?
So my first actual game was against Brandon Salt Queens, which is an Escher gang, and I had my beefy boys in the butcher's block, and we played on a Zone Mortalis style board, which was using the card tiles from the game and MDF corridors. So it looks good, and a bunch of scatter terrain on it and so on. And his gang used some tactic to make my morale test harder, but Goliath cool stats are super solid, so they never came into effect. So my guys just tanked a bunch of shots, got close, and ran wild on his gang.
Oh, nice.
He bottled out after taking out 4 of his gangers, which is half of his gang, and 3 of them were lucky enough to recovery on like 11s, but 1 got captured, and I got to sell her to the guilders.
Look at that.
Yeah, which that was exciting. But if my 3 guys... Oops, sorry?
If I remember correctly, after the first round, you had the highest gang rating.
I did, because while I had 3 guys go down, they had full recoveries, and they just had to sit out around. And I just spent my money and bought armor and grenades and all sorts of cool stuff for my gang.
Nice.
It went very well for me, as did the recovery phase afterwards.
Well, that sounds nice.
How about you?
My Hulkamaniacs got destroyed in the first game in a trend that would continue the entire weekend. I played Eric's Goliaths and the
Icebox Boys.
The Icebox Boys, yeah. And the Orlocks excel in like short to medium range shooting, which means they excel in charge range, but not actually charging. And so against Goliaths, it's kind of a shitty situation because like I need to be within like 12 to 18 inches of guys to really do damage for my gang. But if I'm within 12 to 18 inches, that means I'm probably going to get charged if that turn or the turn after. And against Goliaths, that doesn't work out too well. So played Eric's Goliaths, and I took 2 gang champions. I had 8 guys, 2 of them gang champions, 1 with a heavy stubber, 1 with a harpoon gun. And the heavy stubber I thought was going to do work. And it didn't do dick the entire weekend. And I don't have much to say about the harpoon gun because he died after the first game and lost all of his equipment. Eric killed him with a blazing shot from a rivet cannon, set him on fire and killed him. And then on the we went out of action, and then on the roll to see what happened, I rolled a 66, nice. Which means he is dead. In fact, a memorable death, which gives the other guy an extra point of experience. And you might think, it sucks losing a gang champion with a 110 credit weapon in the first game of a campaign. That's horrible. Well, listener, don't fucking check out yet, because there's more. I lost another ganger, just a regular ganger, that same game in the same way by rolling a 66 onto the lasting injury table. So the first game... the first game did not work out so well for me. So I was at 6 dudes, down a gang champion, and I got, I think, a total of 40 credits after working turf and having the first cycle of the game go through that round. It was a terrible round for the Hulkamaniacs. Nobody ran wild on anyone.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that.
Well, Campbell, that's it's good that you say that, because it actually gets worse. Let's talk about the second round, where you sat out the second round, I believe.
Yes, because there were 7 people and we wanted to keep things even, we had the person in the lead sit out the second round. So instead of playing my second game, I counted as having a second game worth of recovery, so my guys be back later, but I was on burger making duty, so I was technically the slopper by Necromunda terms.
And the burgers were delicious, if I say so.
Thank you.
They were quite delicious.
However, they were not slam burgers. Slam burgers have to have pig in them.
Right.
You see, these were steamed slams. It's a regional dialect.
Oh, man. I love it when you make jokes that I don't know they're coming. I'm going to peel back the kimono a little bit here, listeners. Sometimes I know the jokes he's going to make, and I'll laugh at them anyways. But that was fresh. That was fresh meat. Anyways.
That was fresh ground.
I played Ryan's Eschers in the next round. What were they called? The Salt Queens.
The Salt Queens. Brandon's gang was the Salt Queens.
Brandon's Salt Queens, yeah. And they kicked my ass again. It was a mission where I was like infiltrating a raid, right, with the sentries or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I was like, ooh, I'm about to raid these ladies, and it's going to be great. I'll have the advantage because she won't know where my guys are, and she's got to do all this stuff. And it turns out, Campbell, I think the defender has a huge advantage in that game.
I heard somebody say that. It might have been you, but I heard someone say that in most missions, the defender usually has the advantage.
Yeah, because the defender gets to... So when you're the attacker in that, you like pick a table edge, and all your guys come on that, and there's a whole sentry thing, and the whole idea is like you go to the thing like in the middle and kill it, and then run. Mm-hmm. And the problem is you come in, and then the defender, when the alarm gets sounded, he can start setting up his miniatures anywhere. Okay. Which is generally behind your guys.
Yeah.
So they're in the way of the table edge you have to flee off of, because you have to enter, and you're entering and fleeing off the same table edge. And you're just it's hard. You basically have to go up, kill the thing without causing the alarm, and run off. But it's hard because it's got toughness 6. So most hand-to-hand attacks, or even most guns, are strength 3 or 4. So you really want to bring one of your bigger guns to it, or your power fist guy or whatever to it. And I couldn't kill it. And then before his Salt Queens came in and just shot me up from behind. And I had 6 guys at that point, and 3 of them went into recovery. 2 of them going into recovery with lasting injuries. One was a missing eye, and one was like a hurt back or something. It went really bad. My whole gang went out of action or bottled, and it was another thing where I took a bunch of injuries and didn't gain any credits. And at that point, I was still having a good time. It was fine. I was kind of like reveling in the suckiness of the Hulkamaniacs, and I think it would have been smarter if I just disbanded my gang and like started a whole brand new gang.
Probably,
but I felt that was so sort of against the spirit of the weekend, and if I was going to suffer, I was just going to let it happen. So that game was bad because I had 6 guys, and 3 of them were in recovery for the next game, and I still didn't have enough money to buy a new ganger.
Now, that being said, your 6 still living gang members got to go against me in the next gang.
Right. Wow, what we did was we had a cycle, like every 2 games was a cycle, and so after the cycle, Julian was like, "Yeah, everybody like basically gets a day off, so you can you're like your guys who are in recovery come out of recovery, and all that stuff, which was helpful because then I got to play a game with 6 instead of 3. And I think in our game, which we'll talk about in a second, if I only had 3 guys, I don't think I would have won.
Probably not.
So why don't you take it away for our game?
Okay. Well, one more note about Julian running it is he doubled all the XP values. So we actually got to have our gangers level up and get extra abilities and so on, because the stock experience gain in the game is kind of slow.
Yeah, because I think it's meant for like a campaign that will last like a month or something, or a couple of months where you're playing like multiple games a week. But this is a 3-day, or actually really 2-day, Saturday and Sunday, kind of like 6 or 7 game thing. I just want to point out one thing against Brandon's Salt Queens. I did have a moment where Seamus, my favorite model that I have, he's got an auto pistol and a stub gun, and he's like 2 inches away from a prone Salt Queen. And I'm like, oh yeah, because I was like, I'm gonna light her up. I got all these guns. I'm gonna shoot at her and kill her. And he whiffed, and then he got shot in the eye from a las gun, fucking across the board. He fucking lost his eye. Seamus actually was my goat of the weekend. He was my worst performing gang member, which is too bad because he's my favorite model.
That's how it works.
That's always how it works. All right, our game, what happened?
So we got to play on the board that Dylan built, which is like, I cannot undersell how pretty and how dense this board is.
If you want to see at least some shots of it, listeners, you can go to Campbell's Twitter, where he posted some pictures of his gang in one of the board sections.
Well, I hadn't yet, but now I will.
Oh, I thought you did on Twitter.
No, I think I posted in the thread, but I'll post on Twitter. Why not?
Yeah, do it.
That won't hurt my comedy brand, but... Anyway, so we were playing on this like super dense board, and there is one central objective that we had to capture and then take back to our deployment zone. But the twist was there's zombies all over the table, and there's more appearing every turn, and they start swarming, and they'll swarm towards the closest enemies, or they'll just wander around, and you take turns kind of activating them after you activate your main gangs.
Yep.
However, because of how dense the board was, line of sight is really broken up, so you're not getting a lot of shooting action in this board, and that kind of worked in your favor this time around.
Yeah. You described it best as a game of Blood Bowl, where my dudes ran up, grabbed the football, or MacGuffin or whatever, and sort of just handed it off to each other. And so, the game lasted 3 turns total?
Yeah, it was very short.
Yeah,
it was a 3-turn touchdown.
It was like run up, grab it, and then hand it off to the guys, because it was a simple action to carry. And when you stop your turn, or when that model stops its turn, the football or the MacGuffin or whatever is just all on the ground, next to him. And so somebody else can come and grab it. And that's what I did. I just chain ran it off the board.
Yeah, and because you're able to move twice with each guy, by doing that instead of fighting or whatever, your guys are moving 10 inches or a foot each. And my guys are just plugging along at 4 inches per turn, or maybe 8 inches per turn if I'm not getting too hung up on zombies, trying to catch your dudes, and it was just not happening.
Right. And it went really quick, and I won, and my guys got a little bit of experience, a little bit of money. However, Seamus, you did take Seamus out.
Oh, yeah. Did I enfeeble him?
Yes, you did. So not only was he missing an eye, he broke his back after that for the -1 strength.
Yeah, I had my guys chasing down your dudes and shooting at them, and he was the one I actually hit and caught. And I'm just picturing my Juve, Brisket County Jr. with his 2 revolvers running after your guys and shooting both guns at them, and them running out and just throwing the gun at your dudes like a bad comic book.
Yeah.
But that was about it. And of course, you won by running away.
The Hulkamaniacs' one win of the weekend was because I ran the fuck away. And it worked out. It worked out for me.
But because the other game going out at the same time was going a bit long, because a few people were out to go to a concert that they didn't go to, and because our game was kind of unsatisfying, we decided to have a second little game out on the porch.
Right. So Gang War 3 had come out that weekend, and we had snagged a copy of it, and we're looking through the missions, and there's the shootout mission, which is my favorite mission because it's ridiculous. It's basically your 2 gangs, a few members of your 2 gangs meet in a hallway or the middle of a street in a town or something, and they are yelling insults at one another and having itchy trigger fingers or whatever, and you roll on cool checks, successive cool checks, and whoever fails 6 cool checks first goes for their guns first, and it's a whole shootout thing, and it's fun. It's a fun game. It's always very short.
Yes.
And I thought it would be just a fun little diversion for us to do. It immediately looked bad for Campbell as soon as we started the game, though, because I had 4 participants in the shootout, and he only had 2. And
it's D3 plus 1.
Though I had 2 Juves in there, one of the guys I had was my leader, and the other one was an autogun ganger. And I think you had just a couple of gangers, right?
I had a champion and a ganger. The problem is basically when you get up close, whichever gang breaks cool first is the one that goes to their guns first. And in a campaign environment, that means that gang loses rep and the other gang gains rep for being so brave or whatever. But because this wasn't a campaign game, that didn't happen.
Right.
But my 2 guys,
though, I think we calculated it after the match, and I think your gang would have gained 6 rep off this game.
Yeah. It would have gone a ton.
If it had actually been a campaign game.
Yeah,
you would have taken a couple of out of actions, but
but whatever. But
I think in the long run, it would have helped your gang out quite a bit.
Yeah, probably. But the thing is also, when it's time to go for your guns, it's an initiative check for every single model, and they shoot each other in order. And the problem is, my guys have lower initiative and heavy weapons. They're at like a -2 essentially, and your guys have pistols and higher initiatives. They're at a bonus.
Yeah.
So your entire gang got to shoot up my gang. And
then my
then
leader charged and used his power fist to punch one of your guys to death or something.
Yeah, and I had a guy throw a grenade and it did something or other.
Yeah,
but
pinned a couple of guys.
It was fun. It was a
fun little diversion, and we played it outside on the balcony too, on a beautiful day.
That was very nice.
So it was a very nice, just sort of diversion and chill moment where we got to hang out, and that was There's one more game that night that I played. I don't know if you got another game that day, because I know we went to dinner after that game.
Yes, we went to a diner.
And you had dessert first with your milkshake.
Yeah.
That diner was delicious, but oh my God, the portions. Jesus. Also, can we talk about New Jersey for a second?
Oh, always.
So we're driving up. I'm driving up. I went alone. There's no we. I'm driving up, and
the royal way.
I noticed that there was like a fucking pizza delivery place every block in the small town of Wanacue, New Jersey. Oh, and we were calling, I don't know how you guys pronounce it, but Delax or whatever, the gang from Necromunda, because we were in Wanacue, New Jersey, we were calling them Delacues for the weekend, which I thought was a fun thing. But yeah, why are there so many fucking pizza places? That small town cannot support that many pizza places.
I mean, my small town, Connecticut, of 3,000 people had 5 or 6 pizza places at its height. So,
I'm talking like you can see the next pizza place from the doorway of the pizza place you're at. It's like there's like overlapping coverage. Is it a rule in New Jersey that there has to be overlapping coverage?
It might be a fire code thing.
Anyways.
It's so you can go, I don't want to go to Luigi's Pizza. I want to go to the good Luigi's Pizza.
There was a place, though, called Il Palazzo in Wanacue that was like in a building that looked like a castle. And as I'm driving by it, I've got my windows down because I was on the highway for 5 hours and I was enjoying some fresh air. And I'm like just howling in my car, Il Palazzo! Il Palazzo! And I think the natives were looking at me like, what the hell is wrong with that guy? Anyways.
Still no beppo to bepis. I just got a phone case for my new phone, and it just is the Pepsi logo. It just says bepis on it like 50 times.
All right, so I played Dylan in my game that night, and
how is Van Sars?
So he had Van Sars, and I got completely destroyed. Because Van Sars are the shooting gang, and they're really fucking good at shooting. To the point where I think they're like almost completely broken.
I mean, they have guys with BS2 up.
The start with BS2 up.
Yeah, in Necromunda, that's a little much.
Yeah, and I think we were playing templates wrong. Like everybody was the whole weekend.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Because like people were like, oh, templates ignore cover. And I'm like, wait, so... There's a guy, you're shooting at a guy who's in cover, but because it's a template weapon, the guy who hits on 2-up just hits him on 2-up anyways. And it's like, I can't imagine that's actually right. And I was reading the rules afterwards, and they're not that well written.
No. As Julian was saying, there is a great game buried in these rule books. It is just not very well formatted or very well organized.
They could use a little editing or maybe a little new FAQ help or something. But so he just rocked my gang. It was we were doing a new mission called Spook Harvest, where we had to harvest all these psychedelic mushrooms that and while you're harvesting them, you can ingest some to get like psychic powers for a turn or something. But,
That's awesome.
But I never got a chance to do that because his guys were just across the board the whole time sniping my dudes. Mm-hmm. So my guys would run out open to grab the spook, and then they'd get shot to death. And then I'd be like, okay, well,
next,
cool. It was another thing. Like I lost 2 more guys that battle. Like I lost a ganger and a Juve who died. Like rolled 66s on the see if they die check. So at that point, I'm down to like 5 guys, I think, because I think I'd been able to buy something else. And my starting gang rating was like 960, right? because I didn't spend all my 1,000. And I think at that point I was down to 650 in gang rating after my 5th game. And it was fucking brutal, dude.
I mean, I was almost triple that gang rating by the end of the weekend. So that round, you guys went down to the slam sector, to play in the basement area, because upstairs is where it was kind of in house party mode.
Yes, that's why we went down there, because we were like kind of trying to chill and not deal with some of the more rambunctious members of the Necroslam Spa weekend.
Yeah, so I was kind of like, I'm like, man, I really want to play another game. Like, I don't want this to be it for the night. So I'm kind of like, hey, who's up for a game? And everyone's like watching The Room and quoting along with it and shit like that. I'm like, this is great, but I want to do this flavor of nerding out. But I was able to get a game with Peter and his team Heat, his Escher gang.
Yeah.
And again on the Zone Mortalis board, and he's like, fuck it, let's just do a standard shootout. Let's keep it simple. Let's just make this a pretty easy chill game. And I was like, all right. And the problem with shootouts on a Zone Mortalis board where the objective is just to kill each other, when one gang is an overpowered Goliath gang and one is a severely wounded Escher gang, is things go really well for the Goliaths.
Yes. That toughness 4, like across the board.
Oh, it's so good.
Is so key.
I mean, I had toughness 5 and like multiple wounds on a few guys by this point. So, I just bulldozed his gang. They were all bunched up, so my grenades and combat shotguns just swept the floor with them. And I think it culminated with my rivet cannon shooting his gang leader, knocking her seriously injured, because it's a multi-damage weapon. So she's on the ground, seriously injured and on fire. And then Brisket County Jr. leaps over a pit and curb stomps her.
Oh, no.
So, at the end of it, I didn't have any injuries, and 3 of his gangers were either dead or had to go to the dock, and he had no money to pay for the dock. Yeah. So 3 of his gangers died, while mine just raked in the cash.
Yeah, Peter and I got rocked that weekend. Our gangs did not.
Yeah.
Neither of our gangs did any good.
He took it in stride and was having a pretty good time with it until I played like a gang card that let me take an extra action, which is why Brisket County Jr. was able to jump over a pit and then charge his downed gang leader and kill her instantly.
I didn't use my tactic cards,
a little dirty.
my gang tactic cards the entire weekend.
I used them every game.
I forgot about them every single time.
I used them pretty much as soon as I figured they'd be useful, because if I didn't, I know I'd forget them.
Yeah, well. No, then the next morning, Sunday morning, like kind of Sunday afternoon, because we didn't get going. Like, people didn't wake up until like noon on Sunday. Like, I left. I had a long drive ahead of me, and I wanted to get back and spend a little bit of time with Danielle. So I retired my gang. They went back to the slag pits of House Orlok, and I hit the road. Did you play any more games?
I had one more.
Okay.
So Dylan and I hadn't gotten to play against each other with our new gangs. So we rejiggered the board that he brought just to make it a little different, and we picked a mission out of Gang War 3, and this one was hilarious. So this mission has a bunch of civilians wandering around.
Ooh, the Dust Up mission, I think it's called.
Yeah, and he had brought like a whole case of just weirdos, just, vapor farmers and old Hive Helmar models, like unreleased Necromunda models, figures from the Colony 87 Kickstarter, which are very Rogue Trader styled civilians and guilders and hivers and so on. And we had probably around 8 or 9 of them on the board. And every time a weapon went off near one of them, someone got hit near one of them, or a fight broke out near them, you'd roll a die. And on a 5 or 6, that civilian would run away. You'd roll 2d6 and they move in a ram direction or whatever. On a 3 or 4, they'd stand their ground, and on a 1 or a 2, they'd draw a stub pistol and shoot the closest guy. Now, the flip side was the scenario's goal was to take the other gang out of action without hitting the civilians, as for every civilian you took out of action, you would lose rep or credits. Like, it was like D6 times 5 credits or D3 rep or whatever. Like, you could tank your gang rating in this game if you use explosives. So I had to be very careful. But my favorite part of the game was when my gang leader Slamburger used a civilian as a human shield. So he shot his gun. She got mad, turned around and shot him in the face.
Oh, no.
And then ran away the next round. But the first few turns were a lot of my gang getting shot up by Dylan's gang, and not necessarily them getting wounded, just them getting knocked over, some flesh wounds from his rad weapons and so on. And then I get in close and I just start running all over him, just thunderhammers and renderizers and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And again, there was a downed burning leader, which was his gang leader, and T-Bone, my champion, ran with his renderizer, did a bunch of wounds. Dylan saved every one of them, stabbed him with a knife, and killed him instantly.
Very nice.
Or took him out of action instantly.
Did you at
He ended
least
up with like
kill
hand injury.
Dylan's champion with the fucking plasma cannon?
I enfeebled him. I was able to get up. I got up close to him. I played a double action card and another card that gives me my charge distance being, instead of D6, D3 inches, it being my movement twice or whatever. Yeah. So I had I think Brisket County Jr. did like a 15-inch charge essentially. Wow. And was able to take him out.
Very nice.
But my Grenadier, Pulled Porkins, died a memorable death. And at the end, by this point, we wanted to get back home before it was too late. Half his gang was on fire or out of action. Half my gang was out of action. So we were running out of time in a ganger, so we decided to call it a noble draw. We each had 3 people go out of action. Most of the civilians have run off the board. I think we'd both said our piece. So it was a little frustrating because Vansars are tough to play against, but it was probably the one close game I had all weekend.
Yeah.
And it was very fun to play on that board, and that mission was hilarious.
It sounds like it. No, I think that event is so extremely my speed. Just like a chill, like more relaxed, hang out with friends kind of affair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really hope Peter throws a similar event next year or something, because I'd love to attend.
I will say I do miss the woodsy ambiance of the cabin, but the place he's in now has so much more space.
Where
and
did you
better
sleep?
Lighting. I slept upstairs, and then and I just went to a dark room and fell asleep. And when I woke up the next morning, I was under a wall of bugs pinned to the wall, and that was terrifying. Because guess who doesn't like bugs?
I was sitting in the basement in a nice like pull-out couch situation by myself. It was fantastic.
It's the same pull-out couch you have and the same pull-out couch I have.
The IKEA one.
Yep, it's a great one.
Yeah,
but I had a fantastic time.
It's just an amazing time.
Thank you to Julian for organizing everything, and to Peter and Kat for opening up their home to all of us smelly nerds.
Wonderful people,
was a blast.
Wonderful games, wonderful time. All right, Campbell. So we had a great weekend playing Necromunda, but I want to have a great weekend listening and remembering fan fiction that you read to me on our podcast.
Ooh, smooth.
You like that segue?
Yeah,
I'm the fucking segue king. And I'm not talking about those stupid little fucking deals that people ride around on. I'm talking about making connections. Smoothing it out. Making it seem like this is just a conversation with no editing whatsoever. Because I'm so fucking
no editing, no notes, no documentation, wholly organic conversation.
All right. So I think you got something special for me this week.
I do. So some of you may recall, we did a contest a while back for 40k High School. That was the prompt for people to send in their fan fiction, and we'd read our favorites.
And oh boy, did they.
Yeah, they sent a ton. And our friend, the Chirurgeon, Rob, he sent... he messaged me and was like, hey, I've got an idea for something, but it's going to take a while. And just this week, I got the fruits of his labors, a special 5-chapter fan fiction by him, the Chirurgeon, Animal.net, and Cryon.
Okay.
And for the next 5 episodes, I'll be reading in radio serial style his 40k fanfic, so ambitiously titled WH40k fanfic. Drop the ball on that one, Rob. Chapter 1. We are the Anime Club, proclaimed Magnus, looking around the room with fiery eyes that matched his red hair. We won't be shut down, not even by Principal the Emperor, not even by Father. His words echoed with the enthusiasm of the president of the Anime Club, and around him, the room roiled with righteous agreement. Lorgar, vice president of the Anime Club, carefully checked the faces of all the others in attendance for signs of disloyalty, disdain, or betrayal. Sanguinius and Ahriman were of no concern. Ahriman was Magnus's younger brother, a chip cracked off the cement block, and he would follow his older brother anywhere. There was no other home for Sanguinius. With his blonde hair and goth attire, no one would accept him, even before he made manifest his mighty love of vampires. There was no home for him except in the anime club, as book club had no interest in his incipient interest. Lorgar's eyes fell across Jagatai Khan, the exchange student from Nippon, the so-called wise man of Anime Club. He was one of the few with true knowledge of anime, despite how noxious and nettling he was in learning his fellow club members on anime's finer points. Lorgar smirked reflexively to himself. He knew Jagoff Khan could be trusted because there was nowhere else for him to go. Ooh. Anime Club was a good deal for him, the only good deal for him. He would be put in lockers if not for Anime Club. Despite his fat frame, to which he was very sensitive, Lorgar was well educated in the politics of Terra High School, and if Khan betrayed the Anime Club, Lorgar would ensure he suffered for it silently and smushed in such lockers he could not conceive.
Wait a second. Who's fat? Is Lorgar fat or is Khan fat?
Lorgar.
Okay, perfect.
The fan art of him is amazing. Yeah, okay, Erebus snorted, flipping his hair out of his face. Love to see that happen. Lorgar's eyes found him only moments before Magnus's own. Erebus, an especially upsetting member, erudite but obscene, obtuse and enigmatic. Erebus had made Lorgar the vice president he was today, but the past was precarious and presumptive, and Lorgar denied both. In another time, the vice president would have had a soft spot for him, but Lorgar had no room left in him for sentiment. There was only the duty of his office and the destiny of the club, divined and divulged from the president and spoken through Lorgar to the members. You be silent, Lorgar said shrilly, pointing a finger across the room at Erebus. The dissenter snorted and waved a hand, and Magnus's eyes passed over him in magnanimity. Lorgar smirked and looked away, finding typhus with his gaze, and his mood darkened again. The young brother of Mortarion, an outcast, a loser and a fool, but a known hater of anime. Would Mortarion stand against Valador and his Golden Knights? Perhaps, mused Lorgar, but he would not stand with them. And then, who could know Typhus's ultimate allegiance? He might love anime with all his heart, this one, but Lorgar still found him dangerous to the extreme. That is enough, Lorgar, said the one female in the room. Magnus Senpai will say who can speak. Jessica Gemini, he noted, seething, the sister of Sarah Gemini, the sole sister in Anime Club. She would have the president wrapped around her finger. Lorgar could not permit it. Perhaps if he had perceived her knowledge of anime, it would not be so bad. But he knew she knew none of it. Please, Magnus Senpai, she said, her eyes only for him. Continue. Magnus blinked and blushed, majestically, then nodded with the gravity and graciousness the situation entailed. Yes. Thank you. As you all know, after the Nikea incident, anime has been banned from Terra High School. Father has stolen all of our treasures, from our imports to our external hard drives, and hidden them away in his office. And we, demonstrated the president, smacking his fist into his open palm, must get them back.
Man, I am so excited for next time we tape to hear more of Anime Club.
40k Anime
40K
Club.
Anime Club at Terra High School. Man, that's great.
I'm particularly a fan of how he's referred to as Principal the Emperor. In the notes, I think I actually got to see the notes when it was being worked on, and one of the top things is always refer to him as Principal the Emperor.
Yeah, that's great, man. I can't wait to hear more.
Oh, I'm looking forward to reading more. So join us next time for part 2 of 40k Anime Club, and there's 4 more parts to come.
Yeah, so you listened this far, guys. You might as well just wait and get the next one, and then the one after that, and then the 3 more after that, and then for the rest of your life, because 40k Badcast, that's why.
Bad boys for life.
So I have an announcement to make. We have a winner of last episode's Necromunda Gang Theme Challenge. Our winner is Jake Pence, who wrote in with what I think was tailor-made to win this competition for me, because it was a Goliath gang based on steroid-abusing baseball players. And
it was an extremely clever thing.
He sent in a model he had did of his one of his gangers named A-Rod with a New York Yankees shoulder pad, which I thought was perfect. So
it's a nice touch, but as someone who's lived in Boston for the past decade, I can't accept this.
So he's the winner. I am going to send him his prize via the mail. And we don't have a new contest for this time, but I will think up something soon, and we'll get you guys an opportunity to win more free stuff. But in the meantime, you can follow us on Twitter. I am at DB_sleazy. He is at BrotherSRM. And we're both posting pictures of models sometimes. My Twitter is mainly complaining about ESPN broadcasts of baseball games.
My Twitter is fucking me reposting memes and talking about how my therapist office caught on fire.
Yeah, I saw that. You said there was extremely on brand for 2018?
That it is.
Yeah, but it sure is.
If you want something that isn't free, then go to shop.spreadshirt.com/camtunes and pick yourself up a Badcast Bad shirt. They come in a bunch of colors, a bunch of sizes, and they look fly as hell.
That's the worst fucking segue. I'm sorry, and this is coming from the Segway Master, so you know it's bad.
You are an authority.
If you want to pay money for our terrible shit, why don't you go here?
Hey, it's pretty good.
You should pay money for our terrible shit, because at some point this year I do have to buy an Astreus.
This is true. It's
so help me out.
So it is written.
People. So it is written. So it must be. You can contact us at any point for any reason at contact@40kbadcast.com. When I signed into Quora, I used that email address, and they immediately sent me information being like, you can't post, you can't edit because you don't adhere to our name rules.
What did you name yourself?
Contact@40kbadcast.com.
Oh.
And because I'm using it mainly to troll for funny things. Though the better garden of delights for that is Yahoo Answers. But it's those are the two big ones, Quora and Yahoo Answers. So I went for it. But yeah, email us, talk to us. Yeah. We've been interacting with our fans. People have been emailing us pictures of the models that they've been doing. People have been emailing us, telling us nice things about the show. You can email us, tell us bad things about the show. We don't care. We will respond to it. Hey, I wonder if that package I sent to Ben in New Zealand ever got there.
I'd like to know.
Hey, Ben, if you got that package, fucking email us. Let us know. If not, email us, let us know, and I can fucking send you money back for the postage. Because I think it's been like 4 weeks now, so you should probably have it.
Yeah.
I know New Zealand is across the world, but it doesn't take that long to get there, does it?
No.
I don't know. All right, man. Well, let's finish it up here. Do you have an inspiring quote to propel me into the weekend with great motivation and an auspicious blah 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 words?
No army is big enough to conquer the galaxy, but faith alone can overturn the universe.
Ain't that the fucking truth? Ladies and gents, mostly gents, we are the 40k Badcast. We're bad at 40k. You can too. And we'll see you next time.